What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video, and I haven't done one of these in a while, a watch list clean out video, and that's where I've had a bunch of stuff sell that I was watching, and they don't fit into a particular category. So I've got some loose figures, I've got some mint on cards, I've got some vehicles and creatures, a couple of baggies, kind of all over the map. And when that happens, I try to kind of clean out my watch list and make one of these videos. So it's a pretty nice smorgasbord of different items to cover. As always, thanks to my Patreon supporters. They get my videos 24 hours early, as well as buy it now alerts for items for sale on eBay. And you can join for as little as $1 a month. Action Figure Grader on patreon.com. So let's go ahead and take a look. Here is a baggie I sent out to my Patreons as a buy it now alert, and it was bought immediately. This is a very tough to find ESB-F baggie for 21B, the medical droid. It's a heat sealed baggie with the large Kenner logo. I actually have one of these, and I told my Patreons when I sent this out, the only other time I've ever seen one of these for sale was the one that I bought from Chris over at Rogue 5 Toys on Facebook. It was graded AFA 80+. I think I paid $400 for it, maybe $450, somewhere in that ballpark. It's been a couple of years, but this is the only other time I've seen this baggie for sale that I can remember, because it's a category 4 baggie, I believe, for 21B medical droid. It just never comes up, and when it does, it's usually very, very pricey. That was no exception here. It was listed for $375, free shipping from South Beach Toys, which I buy from regularly, and one of my Patreons must have bought it, because it literally was on Patreon, on my Patreon page, for less than 10 seconds before it was bought. So $375 took that home. Here's another one I sent to my Patreons in an auction alert. I send out at the beginning of auctions for desirable items. I say, hey, this one looks pretty good. It'll probably sell for between $350 and $400. And sure enough, it did. It sold for $380. This is the SWD mail away baggie for Boba Fett, probably in about 80 grade condition. And, you know, this is probably the most common, or definitely is the most common baggie for Boba Fett, since this is what was on the 20 backs for the mail away Boba Fett. $380 took that one home. Now I've got some loose figures. This seller had some beautiful loose figures that were kind of in 80 to 85 grade condition. The first is a Stormtrooper, very clean condition, no discoloration that I could see to the white, but you could maybe make an argument that it's got some rubs on the black paint applications. That sold for $45.52. Same seller also had an Obi-Wan with the light gray hair that was in very clean condition. A little bit of overspray for his hand that holds the saber. That's just a factory overspray there, but otherwise a very clean figure, and would probably grade out about an 80+. You can see one little hand rub there. Beautiful figure, $57.96 on that one. Next up is a power droid that was in very clean condition. Those are probably the cleanest feet I've seen in a long time for a loose power droid. Usually they're pretty rough shape by the time you find a loose one that's not graded like that. But that was very clean. That one sold for $29. Good deal on that one. Here is the light blue emblem Death Squad Commander. So again, there's two different variations for the Hong Kong Death Squad Commander. There's a light blue on his chest versus a dark blue. This is the light blue. I find the dark blue to maybe be a little bit harder to find. Maybe I got that mixed up or backwards, but very clean figure. I think that grades pretty well. That one sold for $26. Great deal on that one. Here's a Princess Leia. Any Leia that's in really good shape is going to go for over $125. This one sold for $153.51. Interestingly, this one also had some paint overspray on the wrist, just like the Obi-Wan. That's the most overspray I've ever seen on a Leia in a long time. You can see how that sleeve has been painted completely flesh colored there. So interesting on that one. But look how clean the face is on that one. I think this grades an 80+ pretty easily, if not maybe an 85 if they are generous on the overspray on that wrist. You can see the wrist there. A lot of overspray there. But I think, I mean, me personally, it's a factory overspray. It's not really something that you can control having that out of the blister, because even if this was still on the blister, it would probably, you know, it would definitely still look like that. So to me, that's an 85. in my opinion, but maybe because of that factory overspray, it gets an 80 or an 80 plus, but 153 bucks on that one. Very fair. Next up was a blue Snags, but you got to be careful because I think that this is the wrong blaster, right? For the blue Snaggletooth, he comes with the black DL44 blaster, not the dark blue version. But otherwise, the figure is super immaculate, and you could easily find the correct blaster to pair with this one. That one sold for $686. I thought that was actually a very fair deal, given that this is probably an 85 grade condition. I mean, it looks 85 to me, but you never know when you get with blue. Blue Snags is one of the most difficult graded figures out there. And if this is not an 85, I don't know what is nowadays. It has no torso discoloration. The boots are beautiful. The belt buckle is beautiful. The only thing you can really complain about, again, is one little factory overspray on the wrist for the blue color and a couple of little very minor nicks to the hand. I think that gets an 85, but again, make sure you send in the correct blaster because that is not the correct blaster for blue Snags. Next up was a Power of the Force R2-D2 pop-up saber. Very, very light yellowing to the sticker with the coin. It was listed for $740. The best offer accepted on that was $700, which to me, that's worth every penny, given that this is probably an 80-plus grade condition R2-D2 pop-up. You never see a white sticker on these anymore unless they're repro. So I think that gets an 80-plus all day long. Beautiful figure. $700 was the best offer accepted. Tig Fromm, this is another one I sent to my Patreons. I said, hey, it's not perfect, but Tig Fromm is really, really expensive in high grade. You can see some paint wear on the left leg there, or I guess his right leg. His right leg? Yeah, right leg. And on the back is where you usually also see some wear, and this one is no exception. These photos are terrible. They're very blurry, but I think this is like an 80 grade condition. Tig Fromm, he comes with kind of a medical 2-1B medical droid staff, and it's just a very expensive figure. I mean, these photos are terrible, so you're taking a little bit of a risk that it's not in better shape. But even in the shape that it's in, you can clearly see it's got some damage to it. It's still sold for $510. Near mint examples now, they're over $600 very easily, already loose graded. I mean, I would think based on this sales price, you're probably closer to $800 or $900. So very, very expensive figure. Tig Fromm and Size Fromm, as I've talked about in past videos, whether they're loose complete or loose graded or mint on card, the prices are going up on that figure, no matter what the collectibles market does. And speaking of continuing to go up unabated, that is Yak Face. This was advertised as mint off card, never move the limbs, which, you know, that could be sales tactics there, but it does look very mint in all fairness. It's a beautiful Yak Face. $948 for a loose, complete, ungraded Yak Face. That price is more than what some sellers in the UK are asking for their UKG 85s. It's just unbelievable the difference in price that we pay over here for a Yak Face versus what UK sellers, even already graded by UKG, will sell theirs for. I mean, I just sold one. I sent one to a Patreon supporters that was a UKG 85 that even if you pay the global shipping, it's still under $750, but it's already graded by UKG 85%. And this one is not graded. It's sold for $200 more, if not more than that. So it's pretty crazy, the difference in price. I've got some loose, unused contents, vehicles, and creatures. I think that's what I have. It might only be creatures. I can't remember. I do have a vehicle. Here's the Tauntaun. I sent this out to my Patreons, and a buddy of mine did grab this one. This was an unused contents Tauntaun. You can see there that it's still got the insert. It's never been taken out of the box. It was listed for $200. Best offer accepted on that was $175. And then likewise, here's the Wampa that has the flap taped down, which if you see that, don't automatically think that that's bad, because a lot of them were factory folded over like that and then taped around the outside of the box. So it doesn't present as nicely as one with a flap that doesn't have any creases on it, but a lot of them did get that factory flap taped over. And this one also, again, was unused contents. You can see the insert, and you can see that the Wampa himself was in really great shape overall. That one also sold for $175 in a make an offer situation. Here was the beauty, though. This was an unused contents, Empire Strikes Back blue box. Now, there's also a pink box for the Rebel Armored Snowspeeder. I think the pink box is considered more desirable. But this is the blue box, blue sky, and this one had an unused contents, unused sticker sheet. The contents were still in the sealed baggie, and it included the instructions and the catalog, and it sold for $1,000. And that was a beauty, though. The box was in pretty good shape overall. I think this overall gets an 80, maybe a 75, depending on how harshly they treat those two little creases down there on the box. But I think that was a beautiful item. $1,000 took that home. I've got some mint on cards to finish this watch list clean out video out. And I'm going to start with 221 back A's that I sent to my Patreons. I assume they bought these because they sold very quickly thereafter. First is a 21A red snaggletooth, and it wasn't perfect. You can see it did have a little crease on the card there at the bottom, but it was listed for $385. That's a great deal for an unpunched red snags with the Kmart price sticker. That was in clear blister. The blister itself was structurally really sound. I mean, it's just a great deal. $385 for about a 75 grade would be my guess because of that crease on the lower portion of the card there. You can see there it's got a pretty pronounced crease there, but still it's $385. That's like a third of what they'll go for in higher grade. And then likewise, here's the Greedo. The Greedo was in better shape. I think this one's got an outside chance at an 80 grade. It had a couple of little dings on the blister right there in the upper left-hand corner. So I think that was really the only major flaw. Again, it was unpunched with a Kmart price sticker, and I think it has an outside chance at an 80, and that one sold for $775. The 21A offer list Greedo is very, very pricey, and I could see that one in in high grade. I've seen them go for double that price. So I think that's a very fair price at $775. Next up, this is another one picked up by a Patreon supporter. And quite honestly, this is the first time that in my memory that I've ever seen the Han Solo Hoth with the plastic molded legs, not the painted legs, the molded legs on a 31 back. This was sold by a seller that I bought from a couple of times, but this is a beauty. It's got an outside chance at an 80. One little faint crease, or you had, some sticker residue in the upper right from the price sticker, but it's a clear blister, and it's the harder to find molded legs. You can see it's got the plastic molded legs versus what are usually painted legs. And again, I've seen a number of molded legs Hans loose complete that I've sent to Patreon supporters over the last few months, but this is the first time in memory that I've ever seen a mint on card version. So I think it was worth every penny of $6.49. And believe me, when I sent it out, I said, full disclosure, I'm thinking about buying it myself. And I didn't because I spent all my money on Hakes, but that is a beauty. Congrats who got that one. I know who bought that one. He told me privately. Next up, this seller had a number of mint on card ESBs that sold. Now, they were not perfect. This one, I think, had a small crack in the blister, and I could be wrong on that. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. You can see a crack down here in the lower left-hand corner of the blister by the Hoth Stormtrooper's foot. And I don't know if the sellers or the buyer didn't notice that, but this is a 31 back Hoth Stormtrooper clear blister, but it had a crack, and it still sold for $505 in an auction. Now, again, let's see if the seller disclosed that. The bubble is clear and nice, looks nice, but it has a slight dent. Small piece on the bottom is cracked. Okay, so the seller did disclose it. And even with that crack in the blister, it still sold for $505. So that shows you how expensive the 31 back Hoth Stormtrooper has become. It's a very, very pricey item. Unpunched with a price sticker on that one. He also had a Han Solo Bespin outfit, 41 back. It looks like it's got very faint yellowing to it. That one sold for $326 in an auction. They also had a more heavily yellowed IG-88. This was the 32 back, which I do have. The 31 back is the debut card, which is a lot more pricey. But this is the 32 back A, and that one, or B, 32B. That one sold for $241.38. Next up is the Leia Bespin. This one sold for $355, which seems like a really good deal. I don't know if it had a crack in this blister or not. Faint crease above the hang tab, though. And let's see. I don't see anything about any noticeable flaws. There was some creasing in edge wear. and a hard crease in the bottom right corner. So anyway, you can see, yeah, here you go. There's some water damage. That's why it held the price down. So in the lower right corner, there's some water staining on that one. So that held the price down to $355. And again, in higher grade, for a 31 back debut card Leia Organa, you're talking $600 plus pretty easily. So that's what held the price down. And full disclosure, and shout out to the seller. The seller was very upfront about what, the problems with these mint on cards. So a lot of them were good deals if you could live with those flaws, though. They don't need to be graded. You can just slap them in an acrylic case. Here's another one I did send out to my Patreon supporters. I don't know if they bought it or somebody else did, but this was a slightly yellowed blister AT-AT driver with a price sticker, unpunched example. Very beautiful example, offerless. And that one sold for $450. And again, I think it had very faint yellowing to the blister. You can see the obvious waffle pattern there. So you know it's legit, but very, very faint yellowing to it. So that's going to keep the price down on the AT-AT driver on an ESB card back. Now, if it was clear blister, I could see that one going for $600 plus pretty easily. But a pretty good deal, I think. Next up was, I think, a clear blister debut card for the Cloud Car Pilot. Unpunched, no price sticker, although it did have some litho issues in the upper right-hand corner that were very faint. I think it's got an outside chance at an 80 grade. And again, it looks like a clear blister to me. And this is one I have because I love my Cloud Car Pilots, but I've got a yellowed blister, AFA 80 plus. So I was tempted on it, but the timing didn't work out. That one sold for $315, which I think was a pretty fair deal, just given what it was. So $315 took that one home. And then finally, another one of my favorite characters, R5D4 on a yellowed blister, unpunched, 47 back, free 4-lam offer. And this is the first time I've seen one of these card character combinations in a long time. Just tough to find the R5D4 on the 47 back. And it was listed for $450. And again, it was a yellow blister, and it sold for $385 in a make an offer situation. So now if one of those comes up with a clear blister in this kind of condition, I'd be very tempted on it because the condition of this one was probably about 80 grade. But I think because I'm a little tight on funds these days that I'm going to wait and hopefully find one of these in a clear blister. That's all I really had for this watch list clean out video. I hope you found this information helpful as you try to add to your collection and use your money wisely in the current market environment. Thanks as always for watching. Leave a like, and I'll be back soon.